Hello and welcome, or welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Georgie from Healing Moons, and today we're going to be talking about Candle Magic 101. When first starting out with candle magic, it's important to note that you can make this as detailed and elaborate as you want to, or you can keep it as simple as you want to as well. So, as it is with any ritual or spell work, it's down to you as an individual. So this is just to give you a basis and an idea of the things that you can include when starting out doing candle magic. So you can use anything from a tea light through to, if you wanted to use something that's more dedicated and designed for spell work, then you can also get small candles like this. It's important to note that if you want to use these, then you will need a separate candle holder, because the circumference of them is a lot smaller than your standard like dinner candle. But if you're using a tea light, then you don't have to worry about anything like that. And you can include anointment oils. You can also include sigils. Now the sigils you can either design yourself if you're creative in that way, even if you aren't, as long as the intent is there, you can create your own sigils, or you can also look them up in books or online as well. And the anointment oils you can either make yourself, or it can be something as simple as if it was a spell to attract love or more love into your life, or even self-love, you can use something like olive oil as an anointment oil. And obviously you can blend your own as well, put essential oils in them and things like that. Obviously be careful and make sure that you do your research when you're using oils and things like that, because of their flammability. And you can also bring in colours as well when selecting your candles. So if it's something like, if you are doing a love spell, whether it be romantic or friendship kind of love, you can use a pale pink candle. If you want something that's going to infuse more passion, then you can use a red candle. Creativity would be orange. For prosperity, then you're looking at something like green, which is the candle that I have here. This is the green one. And if you're doing banishing work and things like that, then you'll be looking at possibly a black candle. And if you don't want to invest in a particular colour and you just want to be able to get a pack of candles that you can use for any spells, then just go for a white one, and then you can infuse it with your intention afterwards. Generally speaking, if you're doing something that is bringing something to you or increasing something, then I like to do it when the moon is waxing, which is when it is getting bigger. Whereas if you're doing something that is more release related or banishing, then use the waning moon. There are particular corresponding days that are for different things. Like Wednesday, I believe, is for money and abundance magic, and Friday is to do with love. So there are different days that correspond with different planets and planetary alignments, I should say, that you can also incorporate, but it's down to you whether you want to include that. Personally, I find that it can be a little bit restrictive if you're doing it that way, because if you don't have the free time on that particular day, then it can kind of throw a spanner in the works when you want to do a spell. Whereas if you generally use the moon, as I say, when it's waxing for an increasing thing that you want to draw to you, and waning for banishing, it kind of opens it up a bit, because then you've got a 2-week window on either side of the moon, for whether it's waxing or waning, to then incorporate your spells and magic into that time. When setting up the space that you're going to be using, it doesn't have to be an elaborate altar, but you can draw in things that are going to enhance the energy as well. So you can use things like crystals that would be appropriate for the spell that you're doing, whatever the general theme is. So if it's prosperity magic, then maybe something like pyrite. If it's a romantic or friendship thing, then maybe something like rose quartz, to just generally bring in that energy in that space. And you can place them around the candle, and it's up to you if you want to bring in some kind of geometric shape that you're laying them out in with your spell candle in the middle. As I say, it's up to you how elaborate you want to make it. And you can also bring in other bits and pieces as well, like if it was for a romance, then something like apple seeds are known for their use in love magic, and different oils and things like that you can bring in, flowers, anything that you feel called to bring into your work. Obviously, if you want to, you can cast a circle and things like that, but generally, if you protect the space that you're working in, whether it be cleansing it prior with something like incense or smudge sticks, if you don't have those sorts of things, you don't have the time, or you don't want the faff of it, then you can also just envision a white light coming down into the space that you're working in to create a safe bubble. If you work with angels and deities, you can ask those to come in as well. And obviously, when you're working with the elements, you can bring those in and ask them to be present. But they're also embodied inside you as well. So as long as you kind of tap into them if you want to sort of protect the space, they're all sort of add-on bits that you can do. A lot of people, depending on the practice, will say that they are necessary parts of it, and it is necessary to protect your energy and think about your intent, because I'm of the faith where you wouldn't do something to someone else that you wouldn't have done to you. So the idea is that you don't harm anyone. So if you're doing something like a love spell, then it's important to not direct it at one particular person, but to do it as a general calling in, so that you're not affecting that person's ability to make a decision of their own accord, and you aren't getting them to do something against their own will, is the kind of basic understanding of it. Also, because you're working more closely with one particular element, which is obviously fire, you also have the elemental spirit that resides within the candle as well, and within the flame itself. So generally speaking, it's, if possible, it's better to snuff the candle out when you're ending the spell rather than blowing it out. This is to do with the elemental spirit that's there within the flame, and by snuffing it out rather than blowing it out, you are releasing the spell rather than blowing out the elemental spirit that's within the flame. Traditionally, when doing candle magic, you let the candle burn down until it snuffs itself out. But if you are using these particular candles with the smaller candle holders, then please be careful and make note, because a lot of them will melt because of what they're made of. So you can't actually let these burn down as you normally would. So normally you would snuff the candle out, as I said previously, if you're putting it out. So make note of how far it's burnt down when you're doing it, and keep an eye on it, which you shouldn't leave an open flame unattended anyway, but make sure that you're paying attention to how far it's got down the candle so that you can snuff it out before it gets to the actual candle holder, because I've learnt the hard way and actually damaged mine. So yeah, it's something to note as well. And although I know that you can get, I think you can get some metal ones as well, but take note of what yours is made of if you're using these. Also, when you're using these types of candle and using an anointment oil, you can actually use the direction that you're putting the anointment oil on as part of your ritual as well. So when you're holding it, you would normally hold it so that the base is facing you and the wick is facing away from you. And if you're doing something that is calling in something, so you're manifesting something, bringing something to you, then you would apply the oil in this motion. Normally I'd use like a bit of cotton wool or something like that to actually apply the oil, because they can be skin irritants and things like that if they're not diluted correctly for use on your skin. So be careful of that as well when you're using them, but apply it in a motion that goes towards you. If you're doing something that involves banishing or releasing, then do the opposite and brush away from you, so that you're directing where the energy is going as well when you're actually anointing your candle. And if you are anointing your candle and you're doing sigil work, then put your sigils on first before you then anoint your candle. Normally I'll do the anointment last, but you can, if you wanted to, you can also, depending on how elaborate you want to make it, you can put your anointment oil on and then roll it, the actual candle itself, in herbs. If you've got certain herbs that you want to use, you can do it that way. And then it infuses in, the energy of the herbs will then infuse in with the oil and things like that that you've used on your candle. And while you're in the spell and the candle is lit and you're in your sacred space, although it takes a while for, depending on the size of the candle that you're using, it takes a while for it to burn down and get to a point where you'd put it out or it would go out by itself. But you can use that time. So if you wanted to, you can meditate and visualize what it would be like when the spell comes to fruition and you have the outcome, so that you're embodying the energy and the feeling of what it is that you're trying to bring in or release. So what would your life be like when you have it, if it's something that you're drawing in? And then what would it be like if this thing was no longer in your life? How would you feel if you're banishing something or releasing something? Also, if you are drawn to oracle cards or tarot cards or any kind of divination, you can also use that time to tap into advice on what, if there's any action steps that you need to take while the spell is in the process of coming to fruition that would enhance it or speed it up. You can use those for advice to tap into that and kind of support the energy and the outcome that you've asked for. So that's another thing that you can use that time for, or that I personally like to use that time for, because it gives you extra insight. And if you keep a book of shadows or grimoire, then you can note down what it is that's come up, what cards were pulled or what runes came up, so you can write those down and then refer back to it if you want to at a later date, or while you're actually taking the steps in case you need a reminder. So you can use it for that as well. And then obviously when you get to the end, it is optional if you want to. If you wanted to do a candle spell over a few days, you can go into it, do the practice, whatever it is that you want to use within it, and then you can put the candle out when it feels right, come back to it the following day, pick it up, reinforce it again, but you don't have to. You can do it in one sitting and then just trust that it's on its way to you. And obviously once you've finished and the spell's at an end, then any deities, goddesses, gods that you've called in and the elements, you then thank them for their help and then release them. And you can also really you can either release the circle that you've cast if you've cast a circle, or you can release the energy and also the angels that have come in to help you and thank them. And then you are pretty much done. And if you're still with me, thank you for watching. I appreciate you so much. And if you feel called to do so, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe. And I will catch you in the next one. Love and light. Take care. Bye.
Is someone happy to see me? Who's your good boy?
I don't know what he's done.